Next order of business is the roll call of members. Please indicate your presence when the sheet is open. If all the members voted, tally the roll.
Well, hey, we're glad to be here with you again. I'm Blake Johnson, represent District 100 in the Indiana House of Representatives, joined by my co-host, the effervescent Earl Harris Jr.
Is it because I wear a vest?
Yeah, I don't know. It was the word that came to mind. We're coming off of a big episode, having just had the Speaker of the House. Can you believe, when we started out on this pathway together, did you think that the Speaker of the House would ever be a guest?
You know, I will tell you, no. I did not see him. I appreciate the fact that he said yes, and when we approached him, he was very happy to be on the show. But I did not know if he would be good with this, but he was good. He was a good guest. He answered and gave us a lot of insight as to what it's like being a speaker, including, for those of you that have watched that episode, what it's like to look out on all of us who are staring back at him.
Yeah, I was thinking about the number of times that so my first session after COVID session, I sat next to Maureen Bauer of South Bend. We sat next to each other. So, in the moments in session, like you kind of just, you jab a little bit, right? And like something happens kind of funny, you might mention it, or, somebody says something crazy, you kind of like side eye each other. And so now Maureen is the row behind me. And so like there are times throughout session while I go, you see that? And so now I'm imagining the speaker like watching me do that every single time. But, I want to acknowledge that, the goal of this show and us doing this is to peel back the curtain, like we've talked about what it's like to be in the legislature. And it's, we discuss the policy, what things are happening, but also we want to show that it's possible to have relationships and discussions and not just kind of fall apart into the divisiveness that exists. And I think that was a good example. And we agree on some things, like obviously the vast majority of bills come out of the House are bipartisan. There are things we deeply, deeply disagree on, right? Around education policy, around who should get a fair shake and who shouldn't, and all of that. But I think it was good to have him on here to kind of to see a different side of him, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. The goal of this is not to punch at each other. We really wanted to have it be a comfortable conversation and have him share some things that even you and I, being part of the legislature, didn't know, and about, for obviously our viewers, things that they don't know, and just get that viewpoint. What was it like as he's staring out to all of us? What's it like when, we talked about when he was the co-chair of Ways and Means, this being a budget year. What is it like when everyone's coming to you about this great idea they have, and how it only costs $5 million? Can we put that in the budget? And then now, as his role as speaker, how is it guiding the other 99 of us? And then also he's dealing with the fact that his caucus, which we would love to help them with those numbers, are at 70 in the supermajority. Having 69 other people is not always the easiest thing in terms of orchestrating and maneuvering through the process. So, that's what we really wanted to get into, with some of those types of things.
Well, so we are, at this point in the calendar on the session, committees are starting to wrap up. I know that even as we record today, local government has completed their work in terms of committee hearings. Also, I think this will probably be my last time in this seat this season. I'll be piping in
now, I'm just
remotely.
Going to say, you're going to make people think that when I joke about replacing you, that I've gotten rid of you.
Yeah. You've done it, yeah. You are going to replace me with ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Or as Mitch Gore calls him, Chad Gepetti. So with babies due really any day now, by the next time we record, I'll definitely be probably from my house. So we'll see how that goes.
The good part is, because technology is a wonderful thing, you can come in remotely.
Yeah.
So you don't disappear from the scene. Now, what I'm going to be curious about is when we see you, will your hair be made, your face be clean, or will you have diapers food all over you?
I want to commit to everyone listening. I'm going to make no effort whatsoever. I'm going to have spit up on me. It's hard to tell what's going to be in the background, but we'll record and we'll question and we'll see how it goes.
Well, you will have two children in diapers at the same time.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And good luck to Natalie
Here we go. Here we go.
Soon coming childbirth.
Let's talk about a couple things. We're going to keep this one short today. Get everybody back to their days. One interesting thing that's been happening is SB 287. This is to make school board races partisan. Now, full disclosure, as we record this right now, that bill is still sitting in the House chamber. We're not sure how it's going to land, but there was recently an amendment filed. The bill's obviously a mess, right? Like, I think most people can agree that injecting national partisan politics into school board races, which are presently insulated and nonpartisan, is probably a mistake, especially when you consider, I shared data last time on the last episode, right? 63% of Republicans, 61% of Democrats say the other side's not just wrong on the issue, but they're immoral, they're evil. You probably have experienced this just like I have, the nasty messages. People don't want to run for office because of all these things that kind of come along with it. So instead of keeping this one bastion of safety and a place where you can run for office and it not be, that you're declaring allegiance to Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. This is one place you can stop it. Where that is under attack right now. And so the bill was in trouble. An amendment was filed. So the present bill includes that now folks can declare Republican, Democrat, Independent, or Swiftie Nation a blank space. And so the bill is even more of a mess than it was before. You were sitting there too. I mean, we don't know where this bill is going to land, but it's wild.
It is. And I believe we've had, as of the recording of this, 2 days in a row where it was passed on. Just a little bit backstory of history. This is the version that came over from the Senate. So it passed out of the Senate. We had a version in the House that was authored that did not make it out of the House. So there's almost if the bill didn't make it out of the House the first time, why do we think it's going to make it out, or why do people think it's going to make it out the second time? So it's definitely run into some roadblocks. I worked in public education for about 20 years, and I can tell you the board members and what political party they come from wasn't even a thought. Couldn't tell you. They could have been from the I like to eat cake party.
Yeah.
I just did not care.
Yeah.
So hopefully this bill will
You'd
not
ask a
see-
follow-up, vanilla or chocolate. But
Well,
I hear you.
if there was,
yeah,
I'd be like, where's my pie? Where's my pie? Where's my piece of cake?
Yeah, you're like, I'm actually pro-pie.
I'm
Your cake?
pie. Your cake? I can't vote for you. I just blew that. I just messed that up. But I gave you a joke, so it worked out.
I like it. I'll take it.
I'll take that one. So, it doesn't make sense to me. I want to know, and I say this as a person with no children, but still, how the school district is run has an impact on I and everyone else. I want to know that person is focused on policy and educating our kids, not being a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care. And so hopefully this will not see the light of day and people will just move past fighting for this partisan thing with school boards. Let's just focus on getting our kids educated.
All right. Well, Ways and Means, Earl. Let's talk about SB 1. This is obviously the biggest discussion that's left. Tell us what's happening. What are you seeing? You're in the know more than I am on this from a committee standpoint.
So a little bit of backstory history on this. Governor Braun ran on reducing property taxes. We know this has been a big issue. We've been dealing with this for years. That AVs have gone up, property taxes have gone up.
Assessed value.
Assessed value. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for providing that information. And one of the things that I talk about is I think it's a shame if you have a senior, as an example, a senior couple or a senior individual, they've lived in their house for 40 years, it's paid off, but those property taxes cause them to not be able to afford it. So the governor ran on property taxes and reducing them. What came out of the Senate and Senate Bill 1 that's come over to us in the House is not what he wants. And so he has been pushing back. There was a rally at the Statehouse a couple of weeks ago. It kind of originated out of the Lieutenant Governor's office, and it migrated into the third floor. I heard there was a picture of you and Senator Huntley. Apparently, you two are responsible for property taxes in the state.
Yeah.
So that means you have
If
power.
you're a
Apparently
listener, if you are the holder of that sign and you're a listener, please reach out. I actually thought the sign was brilliant. So yeah,
it shows you have such power. That's what it is.
I'll take the responsibility of that.
So the governor is pushing back against what is currently in the bill that's over with us on the House. He has talked about, and what he wants, as I believe I know it is, less responsibility for homeowners and more responsibility for businesses, I believe is what he's looking. And when you look at property taxes, it's a delicate balance because, yes, we want to help people not run into financial trouble with their property taxes, but the other side of that is we have property taxes that pay for police, fire, schools, et cetera. So it's a delicate dance there. He has talked about if the bill goes to him, passes through and goes to him in a way that he does not like, he's talked about vetoing it. I mean, we're supposed to be done at the end of April. That's, the end of our session. We could be coming back sometime after that if it's a veto that we end up going into special session. Yeah. So session could be over in April, but not so much if the
So
SB1
would we have an
work.
episode called Special Sessions?
I think we should have an episode called Special Sessions.
You know what's interesting is since I've been in the legislature, which is only since the end of 2020, I've had like three or four special sessions. I mean, which either used to be rare, thus special. But now it's kind of like common.
I've had. I mean, obviously, the ones you talked about. I think my first year, I believe we may have had a special session. So it's interesting. Yeah, it was one, and it's one of those things where, as representatives, you get into, if we go back into special session, that's more taxpayer dollars. So we really don't want to do that because you hate to cost the public more money. So my hope is we don't go into special session. Let's just try to get this resolved in a peaceful way before we call it a day. So
at the macro level, these last several weeks, because that's what we're actually talking about now, these last several weeks are a sprint. They are people trying to get their bills over the finish line. We mentioned SB 287, which is kind of like it's stalling right now. And so we're waiting for that moment. Will they call it down for a vote or not? People are negotiating between Senate and House bills. This is also a moment when, House and Senate can hold each other's stuff hostage to get what they want. You've got, deals trying to be made on final budget. Like there's all kinds of things happening coming to the end. What are you going to be looking for as we wrap up session this last month?
Well, one of the other topics that is really big for, I know here in Indianapolis with IPS, but school districts like Gary and et cetera, is 518, which has to do with funding. Again, I mentioned working in public ed for a long time, traditional public ed, as we have to reference it, I guess. And it is a financial change that would have more money going into charter schools or traditional charters, or whatever the phrase they use, public charter schools, I think is the phrase, and taking them away from traditional, which we already know that traditional public schools are having to tighten their budgets already. This would take more money away. And I'm not anti-charter. As long as you educate the kids, that's what I care about. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe charter schools said we can do it better and for less money. But now we're talking about taking money away from our traditional public, which is still, 87-90% of our kids go through there, which could be a little bit of, or a lot of damaging to some school systems like IPS here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how, I know there's still negotiations going on and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see what happens as that bill moves along. Obviously the budget being another big place where we've already mentioned kind of what's going to happen there and how's this going to land. And also, you've alluded to it. I'm going to be watching kind of closely just for what are the dynamics between the administration and the legislature. Yeah. Because new, as we mentioned last episode, new administration for the first time in almost a decade, new dynamics, a governor who knows the legislature.
He was a member.
What is this going to look like as we try to conclude? And also, crazy things happen in the last few weeks between conference committees and rules. Like, we've talked previously about the road funding. Since Jim Pressel was on, the road funding bill has passed out of the House, is now in the Senate. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. There's plenty of things left to happen.
So I have to share something with you, and Chairman Pressel and I have talked about this. Up in Northwest Indiana, as I called it, the T word, when we've discussed this before, tolling is not loved because we already have toll roads. There are actually billboards, the electronic and other billboards on the highways up there, funded by a gentleman who's in Porter County, but they're in Lake County as well, about how tolling is a bad thing and call your legislator to tell them not to do it. So it has already become a hot topic for us in Northwest Indiana. I think Pressel said there are some 6 or 8 billboards. Yeah. So if you're driving through Northwest Indiana, you're driving through, look for the yellow billboards with the black and red lettering on them. And have fun with that. What about you? Second half, or as we run down here to the sprint, besides becoming a new daddy?
Yeah, it's tough because I'm now in this weird dichotomy of legislative responsibilities and doing things like buying a minivan to make sure I can get 2 car seats in my car. So yeah, I think I'm excited. I'm excited just about this next chapter. If I'm being completely honest, I'm obviously focused on the job and finishing us out here and casting the votes I need to cast. But man, being a dad is the coolest thing I get to do, and the fact that I get to do it again here in any day now is pretty outrageous to me. That's part of my life. So
what's kind of funny is we're recording this ahead of time when this show actually is being viewed by the public. Baby number 2, good chance will be here and
before this
spinning
publishes.
up on you.
Yeah,
before this publishes.
Yeah. We're talking a lot about it. It's kind of wild. As we kind of wrap up here, it's been very cool because my son was born, in September of 23. And so every year now I get a picture of him sitting in my seat in the chamber. And so he was, he was, I don't know, 6 months old sitting in the seat. And then now he's a year and a half and he's sitting in there.
He's a cool little guy, by the way.
He is very cool. I'm very, very lucky. But I was actually almost emotional thinking about next session that I'll set both of them in the chair together. Yeah. And I'll at least get to do that once, before I get thrown out of here. But these jobs are so spectacular and so challenging and so hard, and so it's very cool to have the opportunity to share it with somebody in a new way. And I know my little boy loves running through the Statehouse. I took a picture this week of him, the buffalo up on 4, or the bison, I guess, up on 4. And he just got his hand on the head of the bison. And, it's a cool gig. So being able to inject some family stuff into it, and which right? I mean, you grew up in this building.
Yeah,
and so
I already knew where the bathrooms were when I got here.
That's I still have a hard time finding the first floor bathrooms or the second floor bathrooms.
That's why I see you walking and shaking.
Yeah, that's right. Where is it? Where am I going?
So you and I, our offices are now right around the corner from each other.
Yeah.
So if I'm sorry, speaking of restrooms, I pass your office on the way to it.
Yeah.
If I see
hear
a
you
little
flush.
hopefully that's all you hear. Yeah. If I see a little coat on the coat hanger, I'm like, Lynn's here.
Yeah, Lynn's there.
The coolest guy ever is here.
Cool. Yeah. Well, listen, we'll stay with you here as we get to the last month of session, as things start happening. We're following some legislation. Like I said, I'll be absent but present somehow, so stick with us. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode of Sessions.